Mabitsela.
What? And that. I've been
applying for NSF and I've been responding. I feel I did, but it wasn't. Last year I applied for the student loan.
you're unable to just. You owe how much?
It's 65,000.
Yes, I'm calling you, not picking in class. Yeah, they're about to start now. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. The person in the pictures, yeah. The videos, some of the videos are scaring us, yeah. No. Aye.
I'm audible.
No problem.
Guys, if you are in one room, if it's two people in one room, can someone please mute the microphones or the speakers? We cannot have two people in one room with their speakers on and their microphones on. That's why you're hearing the sound. It's a feedback sound caused by two devices.
Good day. I am having a problem with my speaker, but I trust that I'm now audible. I'm gonna be using this. Microsoft term. We are here. I think if I'm audible, am I audible? Can someone indicate whether they can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. We are about to start with our program, and I trust that we all know why we are all here. For those who do not know but are in the meeting or those who are watching live, the program is merely about us actually celebrating Freedom Day. But I won't actually go into detail. We have a speaker who's going to be telling us more about the reasons why we are here. So on Tuesday next week, which is the 27th of April, we will be celebrating as a country Freedom Day, and I will leave the history and the reason why the purpose of the celebration. We'll have someone who's going to be explaining that to us thoroughly once we actually start with our program. But for now, let me just start by introducing myself. I am Africa Somti. the current Minister of Finance in the University of Venda, and I will be the one who's facilitating the program today. Our program is as follows. We have the program director, and then we have opening and purpose, which is gonna be coming from Mr. LG Chukudo, Director of Student Affairs, and then we will have messages from student political structures, and then under the political structures, we have ANC Youth League, we have EFF Student Command, we also have Student Christian Organization, and then we will have the message where we will have a message from SRC President, which is Mr. G. Chauke, and then we will have addressed by Political Science Lecturer, which is Mr. S.A. Mabitsela, and then we will have introduction of guest speaker, which is going to be done by Advocate E.N. Lambani, who is the University Registrar, and then we'll have keynote address, which is Councilor Tshifhango, Mayor of Thulamela. After that, we'll have a vote of thanks. So as we're about to start our program, I would like to call Mr. Chugudo to actually use the Director of Student Affairs to come and actually address us and open and tell us about the purpose of the program. Thank you.
Madam Program Director, thank you very much for the opportunity. May I please establish if I'm audible?
Yes, you are audible. Yes, you are audible.
No, thank you so much, Africa Somti. I must say from the beginning that you are looking very beautiful wherever you are seated facilitating this program. It is an honor for me and a privilege to be given this an opportunity to introduce the purpose and also to welcome all of you to this very important and historic gathering, which has been organized by the Student Representative Council together with the Department of Student Affairs. On behalf of the University Management, let me take this opportunity to welcome the University Registrar, Advocate Edward Lambani, the Mayor of Thulamela Local Municipality, Councilor Avhashoni Tshifhango, Mr. Seane Mabitsela, our own political sciences lecturer here in the University of Venda, the President of the SRC, Mr. Gift Chauke, and his entire SRC cabinet. Let me also welcome the political structures represented who will be participating in this program, but equally so all members of the university staff who have joined us to be part of this program, and most importantly, the students at large, and more for so our first entering students. Program Director, when I was given this task, at first I thought it was going to be simple exercise, as I mistakenly thought all of us voted in 1994. But then I realized I was wrong, as most of students studying in our university today were not born in 1994. Now let me do justice to the program and give or share a bit of why we celebrate the Freedom Day as the University of Venda. And as you are aware that the Freedom Day is actually coming next week, so we are celebrating it in advance, as we will not be on campus or we won't be at work on that day, because we will be celebrating the national events organized by our government. Program Director, 27 years ago on this month, which was 27th of April 1994, South Africans who were 18 years old and above went out in large numbers to vote in the national general elections for the first democratic government in our history of the Republic of South Africa. This followed the unbanning of the liberation movements, including the ANC, the Pan-Africanist Congress, the Azanian People's Organization, the South African Communist Party. Thus, the 1994 general elections brought the new democratic dispensation with equal rights to all South Africans and the new constitution. But very critically, people of all races had the opportunity to participate in these elections. Ever since 1994, South Africans have been celebrating the importance of the Freedom Day, and so is the University of Venda community. Program Director, due to COVID-19, we are unable to celebrate this day together in our traditional way, but we can only do this in our different spaces using the online platforms to take part in our fight against the spread of the deadly virus COVID-19 pandemic. Scientists are telling us that COVID-19 is going to be with us for a long period. However, the life of the university should continue, and for us is to adjust so that we follow the government regulations in this regard. The Freedom Day we are celebrating today did not come cheap. It came with a lot of sacrifices from those who lived before us. Some even surrendered or lost their lives for the freedom we are enjoying today. Although we are free, this freedom, we must always remember that it comes with responsibility. So I urge all of you to celebrate it responsibly in honor of all those freedom fighters who came before us. In one of his many quotes about freedom, the first democratically elected president of South Africa, President Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela said, and I quote, "For to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others," close quote. Program Director, we are here to celebrate this Freedom Day today under the theme valuing our freedom in difficult times. Yes, it is difficult times indeed, but let's work together to provide solutions to our students, staff, and the general university community, in particular also to the country as we navigate out of these difficult times. With these few words, Program Director, I would like to once again welcome you all. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chugudu, for that welcoming and actually giving us the background as to why we then are having this program. I think everybody who's watching, they now know that the freedom that we now have was bought with a very high price, and where people were willing to put their lives on the line and said they were willing to fight for it. And that's why in 1994, for the first time in our country, we had Black people voting for the first time. So the next item on the program is message from student political structures, and the first one that we have is the ANC Youth League. So I would like to call upon Sipho Mabungu to come and actually give a message for this day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Program Director. My message will be very much short and straightforward. I was told that we will only be given 5 minutes to address the meeting. I will start by acknowledging and thanking everyone that is connected to the meeting. As the director has stated that during these difficult times, it's no longer possible to celebrate the Freedom Day through the traditional way of doing things. As the ANC Youth League Union branch, we also want to be part of Union celebrating the Freedom Day in advance, which is on the 22nd today. The official day is the 27th of April. Today, South Africans, students and people, we are guided by the Constitution, which was fought through the different political structures which liberated South Africans at large. I will also want to continue to pay particular tribute to the gallant fighters who fought for freedom, the likes of Chris Hani, Oliver Tambo, Solomon Matlagu, and the countless other fighters who some of their remains were buried in foreign soil, fighting for this freedom that we as South Africans today are enjoying. We'll further pride ourselves with the multi-party democracy which was brought about by the same Constitution of South Africa that allows every party to contest elections, and also that allows every party to contest free and fair elections to elect different political parties to govern the country. With that being said, as the ANC Youth League, we continue to strengthen the bonds of freedom through the communities and the students that we lead. I think that will be all, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you to the speaker from the ANC Youth League, Mr. Sipho Mabungu. I will move along and actually call upon the speaker from EFF, and we will have Mr. Tamano to come and address us.
Thank you very much. Speaking here is Mr. Chamano, the convener of the EFF. Without any further wasting of the time, first and foremost, let me acknowledge the organizers of these programs. You know, it is very interesting. Engagement are not only held in memorial service, but are also held as a way of valuing our freedom in these difficult times we find ourselves under. Usually, when I speak for a long time, but today allow me to be short, like a miniskirt, but long enough to cover the basics. This month marks the day. The day of historic shift in the politics of South Africa. It is in this historic month, 27 April in 1994, that South Africa participated in its first democratic elections, where all citizens, blacks, colored, Indian, and whites were allowed to participate in the elections of their own government. The political right came after decades of struggle by our liberation heroes and heroines who fought both the British and the apartheid regime for the right to govern their own affairs, their own people, and their own land. In 1994, Black South Africans who had been battered and bruised by the racist apartheid regime took a stand. On this day, Black South Africans removed inhuman government of Hendrik Verwoerd, D.F. Malan, Botha, and the racist F.W. de Klerk. It was on this political ticket that South Africans from Soweto, Uchabelo, began to chant a way forward of a new South African where will only of majority of be presented as the path that was rigged through sacrifice, sweat, and blood of our forefathers and mothers who gave their all and fought for the rights which determines their future. The 1994 dispensation came after decades of political struggle, and ultimately it led to the negotiations of settlement that gave us our constitutional democracy. It is important for us to remember that in 1994 did not came as a result of goodwill of the leaders of apartheid regime, as many would like us will make us believe today. 1994 was a product of the resistance by the leaders of the great nations of Africa, such as Shaka Zulu, Sekhukhune, Hintsa, and Mushweshwe. It was a product of the blood of Steve Biko, the ideas of Nkhubuza Baramtiro, the intelligence of Z.K. Matthews, the resilience of Robert Sibukwe, the bravery of Chris Hani, and the fearlessness of Mama Winnie Madikizela Mandela. It was the armed struggle led by the likes of Chris Hani, D. Palmer, Javta Masibula, that confronted the regime that used violence to oppress our people with the determination. It was the unit of students, workers, and religious leaders who with stones refused to betray Africa and fought the independence, even if it meant they will lose their life. Who can forget the role of young lions who in 1980s responded positively to O.R. Tambo's call to render South African ungovernable and apartheid machinery unworkable? The democratic dispensation of 1994 is a product of these and many others unsaid heroes and heroines, not the kindness of racists who succumbed to revolutionary spirit of resistance. This is the day that has come to be known as a Freedom Day, as it was a day that was meant to be the first step towards the liberation of our people. We must remember this day and celebrate its victory, reflecting also in its shortcomings. 27th of April is remembered as a day where we achieved political freedom after years of negotiation between the liberation movement and the apartheid regime. As revolutionaries, it is important that we remember this is an important transition to democratic dispensation, but not where we achieved independence. In South Africa, the 27th of April is a day in which we achieved political freedom, but not economic independence. Many sacrifices and compromises were made, which saw the economy remaining in the hands of the oppressors. The likes of President Nelson Mandela did this with the hope that political power will be used to take back our economy from the hands of minority. Unfortunately, this has not been done. Those who control the apartheid economy use their power to control our landscape. No, thank you very much. I think I'm done.
Thank you to our two speakers that have given us messages of support, which is the EFF and the ANC Youth League. I've gotten information that we don't have a speaker from SCO, and as such, we will move to this message of support from the SRC president, which is Mr. G. Chauke. Mr. G. Chauke, over to you, sir.
Can I proceed? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, President. You can
Thank
proceed.
you very much. Firstly, I just want to thank for the opportunity to address today. Today we're celebrating Freedom Day under the topic of saying valuing our freedom in difficult times. Freedom Day is a commemoration of the first democratic election held in South Africa on 27 April 1994, where black people voted for the first time. These were post-apartheid elections where South Africans, everyone could vote in regardless of race. Remember, before only white people had the privilege of doing these things, but in 1994 is where everybody found the freedom to say they are casting their vote on the political party they want. During apartheid, where then racial segregations where black were less fortunate, actually were treated like they are not humans. But in 1994, as a black people, we got is it fine now? Is it okay? Okay, thank you very much. Let me proceed. In 1994 is where we got our freedom officially when we were casting our votes as black people. I was there, but I didn't vote, but I was there. I'm not generation of 2000. I was there. But there's something that I want to bring to the attention of this sitting, that this freedom didn't just happen automatically. We have got leaders who have sacrificed everything for this freedom. Leaders like Tess Mashinini, Mutumieza, Steve Biko, Robert Subukwe, Harry Gwala, Solomon Masangu. We have got a lot of people who sacrifice these things. Some of them, they even sacrifice this freedom with their own life. So what are we saying as a leaders of this generation now? We're leading during COVID. where things are very tough, and we still have to look at, to check, is, are we still having the same freedom that our leaders have fought for now? The answer is it's yes. The answer can be no, because if you can check properly, as student leaders, we still have a problem of students who graduate and still sit at home and not get employment. We've got a high rate of unemployment in South Africa. We have an issue of young people who are just roaming around the streets. We have got issues of free education. If you can check this, unrest in universities. But after we've got our actual liberty and freedom in 1994, could not be speak about the issue of land now. We should have not speak about the issue of free education now. We should not speak about the issue of economic freedom now. But even today, we're still speaking about those issues. That means we just got the freedom of living freely in South Africa, but we don't have freedom at all, because there's still poverty. We still have people who are suffering. And even though you are free, but if you don't have anything, if you still have poverty, we are still oppressed by poverty. University students, in order for them to register, they must first close the gate. We must first have meetings up and down. You saw us, we're going to meeting up and down, trying to get free education so that everybody must register for free. So according to myself, we still have a long way to go. We still even have a student even up to date that are still sacrificing their life for other students. We have a student who was killed in Venda recently for free education. So we're still having a long way. Even though we're saying we have a freedom, we're still struggling. University of Venda is a rural-based university. There's a lot of things that we do not have. Even though, we must acknowledge the fact that we have got people whom we are working with from student affairs, from the university management, even though they're not all of them. I won't mention their name because tomorrow they will say they're agreeing with the SRC. But the matter of fact is that we still have people who are providing direction here. That's why we're able to move forward. But if it was not for that, we're still going to struggle. Probably the University of Venda is still going to close even today, because we have got a lot of struggle here. There's no freedom of education here. For you to register, you have to first prove how poor you are. There's a lot of things happening. However, we're surviving as the SRC, and we're acknowledging the fact that we can actually manage in this difficult time. So I do not want to waste a lot of time. What I want to leave, before I leave, what I want to tell you is that as a young person, just check, or as a young leader, just check what are you doing to value the freedom. Are you keeping quiet? Because we still have people in our generation who says I don't want to vote. I don't want to vote. Which means if you're saying you don't want to vote, you are saying whatever is happening must continue. You don't have a problem. Us who are unemployed, we must remain unemployed. We don't have a problem. Where the vote can change the situation that is happening around the area. So we also encourage everybody who have joined here that from today, you must participate in the issue of voting. And there are those who are saying, I don't like politics. Even though you don't like politics, politics like you, and politics is going to direct how you live every day. This country is run by politics. If you don't love politics, politics will love you and will only direct how you breathe every day. So take yourself serious and participate in the issues of politics, elections, and vote. Because today, we're given a freedom to vote. Before those things were not there. We have people who have lost their life to give us this freedom. Even though we're still struggling, but we have a freedom. I do not want to waste time, Africa. I think we should continue and hear other speakers. Thank you.
Let me take this opportunity to thank the President. I think we've actually all heard that when we got our freedom, it was not yet Uhuru, so we still have a lot to do to actually ensure that we achieve the freedom that we actually fought for. The President just reminded me of a quote by Fanon, who says that each generation must out of relative obscurity We are full identify its mission. Its mission. It's either they betray it or they fulfill it. So we still have a lot to do. As the president has said, we have a high unemployment rate. We still have issues with free education. We still don't have land. But I won't dwell much into that. I will move on to the next speaker, which is an address by political science lecturer, which is Mr. S.A. Mabitsela. Mr. Mabitsela, over to you, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Mabitsela? I don't know whether we're having issues with Mr. Mabitsela at the moment. He is not coming in and he is not indicating anything. Let's just give him a minute and then we'll see whether he's reachable or not.
Tell him or your mic is off.
Mr. Mabitsela, your mic is off. Can you unmute yourself?
Okay, you're unmuting.
Mr. Mabitsela, is that you?
Okay, sure.
Mr. Mabitsela? Mr. Mabitsela? Hello? He's no longer muted. Hold on.
Is the one heading to me?
Okay, Bob. Ka? Hello.
Mr. Mabitsela, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
They want for you to speak.
Okay.
Mr. Mabitsela?
Are they listening to me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
Hi.
Hello?
The speaker has a problem. His speaker has a problem. Hello? Mr. Mabitsela?
Am I clear?
We can hear you.
Hello?
Let me just type.
Bob. Hello?
We can hear you, Mr. Mabitsela.
But I cannot hear them. I want to hear somebody from their side before I proceed.
From which side?
Sila.
You can hear me, all of you.
Yes, everyone can hear you. You're audible.
Okay, it looks like I'll be talking alone, but it's fine. Let me continue.
Oh, it's okay. Is it possible for you to switch off on the video?
All right. Thanks everyone for affording me this opportunity to address you on this important day concerning our theme, valuing our freedom in difficult times. I'm sure I was properly introduced. I will not waste time, but go straight to the facts regarding the theme. I have structured my talk into 4 parts. The first part deals with the struggle against apartheid in South Africa from 1948 to 1994. And the second part concerns what I call the threats or risks of our time. The third is about a definition of the concept of freedom, sources for freedom, and the reasons why freedom is valued. Fourth and finally is a summary. I will be brief with regard to the history of the struggle against apartheid in South Africa. Actually, what transpired was in 1948, when the National Party took power in South Africa, they instituted a policy of apartheid. Apartheid simply refers to apartness. So in other words, there was this separation of populations according to races. The black people, in terms of the apartheid policy, were classified as inferior. And because of that, there was differences in terms of how the country should be governed. To be short, 3 particular movements challenged the policy of apartheid. These movements were the ANC formed in 1912. The second was a breakaway from the ANC formed in 1958. That was the PAC. And in the 1960s, there emerged a new movement, the the Black Consciousness Movement, which was mainly composed of young people who were trying to fill the political vacuum that was left by the ANC and the PAC after the imprisonment and exiling of their leadership. So now, these three movements were at the forefront of the struggle against apartheid, that is in short. And in 1994, after many years of differences, squabbles, violence, and everything, South Africa got got freedom, not independence, freedom. Freedom, as I've explained, not only relates to this freeness. One has to fight for freedom. That's why the ANC, the PAC, and the Black Consciousness Movement fought against, the apartheid policy in South Africa. So now, yes, as indicated in 1994, everything came to a new beginning. That is when we had, elections in which the ANC emerged as a leading movement, and then under the leadership of Nelson Mandela, the government took a new turn. That is when South Africa got, freedom. So, but freedom we have today, having it does not necessarily mean that we're not having problems. There are challenges which are called, risks, or which are called, I call, threats. We are living in a very threatening situation today. There is the question of youth illusion. Majority of people are in debt. There are natural disasters. There is corruption all over. There are infectious disease. As you all know that today we are swimming in a pandemic called, COVID-19. This is one of the most, dangerous, diseases that we are confronted with today. There is the question of digital, inequality. People not, having equal access to, resources such as internet devices and all those things. And there is the question of, migration, people moving from one country to the next in search of greener pastures. All these combined are taking place in our lifetime and then complicates the freedoms that we have. But given the very same circumstance, we call ourselves as free nations of the world. This brings me to the definition of the concept of freedom. Freedom, in short, refers to the power or the right to act, speak, or think as one wants. It also refers to the state of not being imprisoned or enslaved. Other words for freedoms include liberty, liberation, release, emancipation, and etc. So, what are the sources of this freedom? Freedom, it is there in the Bible, the so-called, Holy Book. Most of the versions, Bible versions, contain the word freedom. For instance, Corinthians 2, chapter 3, verse 17 says, "Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom." In other words, freedom is God-given, as the Bible says. In another Bible verse found in Galatians 5, verse 1, it states, For freedom, Christ has set us free. Stand firm, therefore, and do not submit again to the yoke of slavery. So, in other words, the Bible itself, also preaches the word freedom. So that is why I'm saying that freedom is a God-given thing. And therefore, the Bible is the source of freedom for all of us. So now, as human beings, I was talking on the basis of, us as spiritual beings. But now, as human beings, we're having legal documents that are governing or that are containing our freedoms. One of these documents is the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This document was adopted on 10 December 1948 in Paris. In the preamble of the United Nations Declaration on Human Rights, the preamble states all the rights of humanity, including freedom. And Article 2, Article 13, Article 18, Article 19, and Article 20 emphasizes the question of freedom for humanity. But with our case as South Africa in 1948, the country which was an incumbent member state of the United Nations decided to go its own way, adopted a policy that I've spoken about, the policy of apartheid. So in other words, South Africa in 1948 deviated from the principles of the United Nations, adopted its own policy of apartheid, which was in contravention to what the United Nations stood for. So now again, in 1981, the AU, a regional body, adopted African Charter on Human Rights and People's Rights. Also, again, in terms of the preamble of the OAU Charter also contained recognition of the people's rights and freedoms. Article 2, Article 8, Article 10, 11, 12, and 13 also emphasizes those freedoms. So now, we're having, at the sub-regional level, the Declaration and Treaty of the Southern African Development Community, which was adopted in Windhoek, Namibia in 1992. Also envisaged the question of freedom for human beings, although it did not elaborate on that or guarantee those freedoms. It stated in simple terms, the freedoms for human beings, especially for the people of Southern African Development Community countries. And at the national level, us as a South African nation, we're having the 1996 Constitution that was adopted with the coming of Nelson Mandela as the President of the Republic of South Africa. So now, the preamble of the same Constitution also emphasizes, the issues of freedoms and justice. More important regarding this Constitution is Chapter 2, which speaks of, the Bill of Rights. Article 12, 15, 16, 18, 21, 22. All of them relate to the question of freedom. These freedoms include amongst others, freedom of expression, freedom of association, freedom of movement and residence, freedom of trade, occupation, and profession. Those are some of the freedoms that are expressed by the South African Constitution. But the question is, why freedom is valued, why freedom is important? In simple terms, freedom plays a central role in social processes. These social processes refers to forms of social interaction that occurs repeatedly among us as nations, amongst us as students, amongst us as the global community. The social process also refers to the ways in which individuals and/or groups interact and establish social relationships. For instance, as a country, We're having relationships with other, friends which supported us during the liberation struggle. Yes, we have, for instance, and we belong to, as a country, we belong to organizations such as the BRICS. We are there for trade and other, trade and other form of, interactions as nations of the world. So forms of social interaction include cooperation, like as I've indicated that we are a member of, other world organizations. We interact to cooperate. We interact to compete with them. We compete in order to accommodate one another as nations of the world. And also, of course, down here where we are sitting in the university, we're competing with other counterparts out there in an endeavor to build a human community in such a way that we are all equal and have equal share of the natural resources of the world. So, ladies and gentlemen, in summary, as part of my conclusion, freedom is God-given. Freedom is enshrined in international, regional organizations, declaration, and other legal instruments. Freedom is enshrined in national constitutions like South African Constitution, as I've indicated. And then freedom is fought for. Freedom must be valued, be it in difficult times or whatsoever. Thank you very much for listening.
Let me take the opportunity to thank Mr. Mabitsela for the lovely lecture that he just gave us. I think everyone who didn't have an idea of what freedom is now has an idea. We are moving along and we are moving toward the next item in our program, which is the introduction of our guest speaker by Advocate Lambani. Advocate Lambani, over to you.
Thank you very much, Program Director Somti. Indeed, my responsibility is not a long one.
Advocate Lambani, if you could please open your video.
Thank you for that. Sure, I know that you wanted to see whether I'm in the office. Well, I'm around and very much appreciated to be given this opportunity of actually to introduce to you our guest speaker for this great day, a day which most of us will always remember and celebrate, even when our human parts are no longer in existence in this very organic world. In that all of us, one way or another, were involved and participated in ensuring that this day becomes a reality. And indeed, it dawned and it was ushered. And we lived and we survived, and we are today celebrating. Our guest speaker is a person very known to us, a studious person and an alumnus for this University of Venda, who graduated with a BCom accounting degree, and many other diplomas and certificates during very trying times, not being able to be like a full-time student like all of the many of us, but balancing his studies with the great work that he was expected to perform for his community and the community he fought for this day to become a reality. The person I'm to introduce to you is our mayor, and is a most popular person of our day within Thulamela. And it would be ill become my feeble oratory to attempt any eulogy on his life. Under his eagle eye, the Thulamela Municipality has continuously received unqualified audit reports for 4 consecutive years, and he is still there doing work that is appreciated by all. He has always borne his vast responsibilities and anxieties with fortitude and courage, and has gained not only the affection of his own staff, but also the admiration of all of us at the university as we work with him, being a member of our university council. Enthroned in our hearts, his worship, the mayor, represents the highest traditions of our past struggles, as well as the ideals we cherish for the future. There is no need for me to dwell upon the mayor's well-known zeal in all the more than 20 committees and structures he is involved in at this present time. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow compatriots, join me in welcoming to our online system of communicating our new form of the floor, our guest speaker, Mr. Avhashoni Christopher Stephen Tshifhango. Thank you very much, Madam Program Director.
Thank you, Advocate Lambani, for that well introduction to our mayor. At this moment in time, we will hand over to the mayor, and he does his address.
Thanks very much, the program director, the Speaker of Student Parliament, the University Registrar Advocate Edward Kanguleni to introduce me, Director of Student Affairs, Mr. Rufuno Chikudo, Mr. S.A. Mabitsela, our political science lecturer, was also addressing us, not so long. The SRC President, Gift Chauke, the leadership of student political structures, Comrade Mabungu, who represented the African National Congress Youth League, Comrade Chamano, who represented the Economic Freedom Fighters Student Command, and the comrade from Student Christian Organization in absentia. Invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, the Macheroni. And I would like to thank you for giving me this opportunity to address this gathering. Program Director, let me go straight to the topic of the day. Today almost marks 27 years since the dawn of freedom and democracy in our country. After centuries of racial and economic oppression, the 1994 elections laid a foundation for a new constitutional democracy built on the Bill of Rights, parliamentary sovereignty, judicial independence, and the rule of law. The elections took place at the backdrop of many political uncertainties. There were bomb blasts on the eve of elections attributed to the right wing. The low-key civil war perpetrated by the state through the Inkatha KwaZulu in Natal was extended to the Rand. Battle stands after battle stands were collapsing with disastrous consequences. The movement towards freedom was jittery and slippery. The Captain Park negotiations were losing momentum, stormed by the right wings and with the leader of the South African Communist Party had just been assassinated a year earlier, placing the country on the edge of a revolutionary war. The election date was announced. These were indeed the difficult times in the history of the country. The value of freedom and democracy cannot be quantified by any scientific formulae. Whether it was the 27 years of Nelson Mandela's life wasted in prison, life of Solomon Mahlangu lost in the gallows, the blood of Hector Peterson, Chris Hani, Griffith and Victoria Mngenge, torture and murder of Steve Biko or Chipwa Mohope, and the constant detentions, harassment, tear gas and shambuking of youth and workers. No currency can reflect the value of freedom, Program Director. In his inauguration, Nelson Mandela appealed that never, never again should these atrocities be meted out by one human being to the other. This was hope for a better future. The country had crossed its own Rubicon. Soon, the final constitution was adopted and institutions of democracy were established one after the other. At a political level, the National Assembly was constituted based on one man, one vote. This is the true symbol of the value of freedom. Universal franchise was extended to all the people of the Republic. No currency, mineral, or emerald can constitute the value of the vote. Everyone has the right to express his or her own will politically. The Constitution of the Republic is absolute. The inclusion of the Bill of Rights, the separation of powers between the spheres of government, judicial independence, independent checks and balances institution, and other mechanism guarantees individual freedoms, protection of rights, and rule of law. No one is above the law. Borrowing significantly from the Freedom Charter, the Constitution remains the supreme law of the land, thus adding currency to the value of freedom. When the liberation movements, such as the ANC, were established, they fought for the right to vote and self-determination. They defined the meaning of freedom. Included in this definition were many elements of the Freedom Charter traceable in the Constitution. In essence, Program Director, the Constitution equally defines what freedom is. The Bill of Rights in particular preserves the right to vote, the right to life, and many other rights. These rights protect the individual from the arbitrary violation by institution of the state. When the state wishes to limit these rights, such limitation should be constitutionally. The Constitutional Court is the final arbiter in constitutional determinations. The judiciary is independent from the executive, legislature, and government. The Bill of Rights guarantees the right to conscience, freedom of association, freedom of choice, and freedom of expression. Anyone has the right to a belief, to choose and to mingle with whoever agrees to mingle with them. Everyone has the right to think and express their opinion. These freedoms are sacrosanct. They are true freedom. They are the closest thing to the definition of the value of freedom. Given these assertions, the formula to calculate the value of freedom should include all the imprisonments, detentions, killings, banishment, land displacement, and economic exploitation that span more than 3 centuries together with the constitutional tenets contained among others in the Bill of Rights. Program Director, the sum of these assertions will probably but not absolutely give us the closest value of freedom. What are the difficult times? It almost 3 decades that the foundation of democracy was laid. Although it took more than 3 centuries to build, consolidate, and subject Africans and Black people in general to state operation, it will require more than miracles to undo such in 3 decades. However, This is not to say 3 decades are required to undo the system of racial oppression. Similarly, as there are no formula to determine the value of freedom, we are yet to see a perfect formula of achieving full freedom. What are these difficult times that confront us 27 years later? Have we reached the promised land as Moses had hoped with the Israelites then? The definition of this difficult time is both realistic and controversial too. It may even require a PhD study to understand it, partially. Nothing in life is absolute and certain. Universities are considered areas of universal knowledge, sharing and contestation. They are factories of knowledge reproduction. In the process of such reproduction, human nature realizes its creative nature and become innovative. From theory to practice, no knowledge is limited. Ideas keep on transcending their previous dispositions. The constitutional freedom of conscience, belief, and expression find a better home in the universities. The question is whether all universities, including this one, the University of Venda, is still in their path of knowledge reproduction coupled with innovation and other human interventions. In recent times, a learned doctor in Cape Town University has been on the news. He has been attacked relentlessly by various people, institutions, and what the name it was, in what is considered an expression of thought. The powers that behold his name over red coal. He stood his ground and held his fort. This debacle begs the question, are these the difficult times we are talking about? The Bill of Rights abolished capital punishment through the right of life, hailed by many as a progressive constitution. It also gave women the freedom of choice. Amongst the choices is the right to terminate pregnancy. While one prominent man of both preaches preservation of life, sometimes he calls for death penalty. Immediately thereafter, fight against a woman's right to choose a termination. Without necessarily delving into the merits, it is safe to leave it at its level of hypocrisy. Is this one of the difficult times? Perhaps. I guess they might be. However, I suspect that the difficult time in many people's minds is bigger than the ones I mentioned. One of the reasons people like fat cakes and fast food is that they sell fast and are convenient. Same as headline news. Is our freedom and the Constitution in crisis? Is this the real freedom we fought for? In the past decade, the Constitution with its Bill of Rights has gone through major tests at a scale never seen before. As we speak, we await the Concord judgment on a former head of state. This court has found the executive and parliament to have violated the oath of office. The Chapter 9 institution and prosecutorial authorities have been caught often on the wrong side of the Constitution. Judges are not only driving drunk into people's property, but they are also found to have breached their oath. The Chief Justice refuses to abide by the sanction of the Judicial Committee. Whilst he must deliver judgment of another man who is also refusing to abide by the sanction of a legal authority. Is this the difficult times? Perhaps. Indeed, these are supposed to be the test on our democracy. The reason the forefathers of state theories created the notion of separation of powers was to protect individuals from arbitrary abuse of state king's power on individual. Parliament should be independent from cabinet, the executive. The courts should be able to maintain the rule of law and manage conflict amongst individuals and the government. The fourth estate, the media, should be able to report without fear or favor. This is the ideal true veil of freedom and democracy. In South Africa today, there are signs of difficult times ahead. The Concord judgment of the former president reinforced the concept of judicial independence and rule of law. No one is above the law. The question is, in the pending case, will it have the guards to send him to prison? Some people believe it is not such a difficult situation. The courts have been largely drawn into internal political infighting, particularly in the ruling party. There is an issue of unsealing the documents of political campaign. The involvement of the public protector leaves much to be desired. In a matter that courts have ruled private, the outside political narrative is different. Defeat after legal defeat. Parliament must decide the fate of the public protector. Does this qualify as difficult times for the President, Parliament, and the Constitution? In the Eastern Cape, a court has dissolved a municipality for failing to deliver services. Unprecedented as it is, it raised questions on the political will of those bestowed with the responsibility to deliver service. Local government is one sphere of government that has helped to catalyze the value of freedom. Do all these examples signify that we have entered the difficult times? Perhaps yes, perhaps no. Post-freedom, there's been political events like those that characterize the apartheid state. We have seen Andries Tatana perish in the hands of the state. We have lost miners in Marikana. Student blacklists for access to higher education continue. Student blacklists for access to higher education continue. Service delivery protests are our daily experience. Are all these a sign of difficult times? It has to tell which even worse than the other. From Sharpeville in 1960, Soweto in 1976, state of emergency in 1985, and the violence in the Reef in 1990. All these events call upon all of us to get to the ground, investigate causes and effect, and propose solution. We should be capacitated enough to be able to separate fact from fiction, chalk from cheese. These are socio-economic phenomena that not only require complex scientific tools of analysis, but complete understanding of material conditions that give rise to these problems. As we ponder on the true value of freedom, we should not be frightened by ships in lion skin. We must know what we know to know and provide proper answers to the challenges. Together, united with knowledge, we shall defend our freedom, or together we shall perish, trying with the pen or a sword. Victory shall be certain. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to quote from the words of one of our martyrs of this country, Oliver Reginald Tambo, when he said, "It is our responsibility to break down the barriers of division and create a country where there will be neither whites nor blacks, just South Africans, free and united in diversity." As we were taught by former President Nelson Mandela, we must remain steadfast in our determination that never, never and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one another. We witnessed the stimulating consolidation of our national identity during the hosting of the World Cup in the year 2010. It is this passion that must be maintained and built on going forward. All South Africans were able to rally behind the South African national soccer team as a symbol of our pride and patriotism. As we are marking the Freedom Day under the theme, valuing our freedom in difficult times, it is a fact that, Program Director, COVID-19 poses a great threat to our nation, but this is not the time to be hopeless and fearful. This pandemic requires collective efforts for everyone to curb the spread of the disease and save lives by adhering to all the set regulations and health protocols. During difficult times like this, we are reminded of the wise and encouraging words by Tata Nelson Mandela, where he said, I quote, "When the history of our times is written, will we be remembered as the generation that turned our backs in a moment of global crisis? Or will it be recorded that we did the right thing?" Program Director, Tata Mandela was a great philosopher and visionary. He said these wise words in 2005 when he was preparing us and future generations that the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands in times of challenge and controversy. This resonates perfectly with our current difficult situation, where we are all challenged to teach our people to take extra care of themselves as the fight against this pandemic intensifies. Ladies and gentlemen, we're indeed celebrating on living in a country that guarantees that never again will our humanity be taken away from any South African, irrespective of their race, gender, creed, or sexual orientation. This theme fits perfectly with what happened recently to a young girl who was bullied at school by one of her fellow classmates in Mbiri Secondary School last week. She ends up by committing suicide. Her dreams and all the things she wanted to achieve. This is indeed a difficult time we are living in. May the soul of Orfuno Mabunga rest in peace. But we must not think bullying is only happening in primary and secondary school. It is also happening in the university, work, in the political organization, and everywhere. So it means we must stop bullying to each other, because bullying is also one of the characteristics of apartheid agenda. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, Program Director, we call on everyone to exercise their right in building democracy by participating in the upcoming local government election on the 27th of October 2021. We all have a responsibility to continue working together to build better communities. Elections are a crucial element of democracy, and it is the responsibility of all eligible persons to go and vote to protect democracy. We must participate in the local government elections to ensure that we are part of the national collective to build South Africa that belongs to all who live in it. All South Africans must oblige by and respect the rules of the election period to ensure that we continue having free and fair elections even in this difficult time. Comrades, colleagues, friends, and compatriots, let me thank you to be recognized to come and give this lecture to University of Venda community. Indeed, you have put me in a map of people like Patrick Loch Otiono Lumumba from Kenya, who is also a director of the Kenya School of Law. My journey definitely will start from today to follow his footsteps because of your recognition. Because in order to solve lots of African difficulties, we need more people like him, Patrick Loch Otiono Lumumba. Program Director, let us go and remember our martyrs on the Freedom Day, the 27th of April 2021, in peace and continue to be united as South Africans. I thank you, Program Director, to be given this opportunity to address you and all our colleagues. I thank you.
Thank you to our mayor. Thank you to our mayor for the lovely address that he's just given us. I think we've come to the end of our program. We've finished all of our items. As we are about to leave, the only item that we have now is the vote of thanks, which is also going to be done by me. Let me just take this opportunity to thank everyone who's watching live and everyone who's joined the meeting to actually have been part of us. It has been a lovely program. I think one thing that we've actually just all gathered is that one, freedom didn't come because there were people fought for this freedom that we have. It was actually bought by a very high price, which is blood, and we need to actually acknowledge that. And secondly, we need to actually acknowledge that we haven't actually reached our destiny where we want to be as a country and as a people, especially in the trying times that we are living in with COVID, and which has actually been something that has altered our lives significantly. So we need to, as the young generation living today, we need to actually identify the struggles that have actually been brought by this unprecedented disease, and that has changed the world globally. We need to actually identify the struggles which actually relate to high unemployment, the problems that it has brought within the higher education sector as well. We identify those and we actually address it, because each generation has its own mission, and we need to actually identify our own mission. A mission as young people living in South Africa in the year 2021 who actually have who are living in 2021 who actually have a dream of changing our country, we identify those and address them. I think the mayor also mentioned that we are voting in October this year, and every young person, I think the president addressed this when in his speech, the SRC president, when he said that even if you don't love politics, they will love you and they will dictate how you live. So as we are actually preparing and we're actually on our way to voting for local government elections, it is the duty of every young person to actually ensure that they go out there and vote, because this is something that our struggle heroes actually fought for and then sacrificed their lives for. We thank our viewers from YouTube, from Facebook, Univen FM, Instagram. We thank you. This is just the beginning to show that what is brought by COVID, which actually is moving us to IR. So everyone actually needs to be on board and move on. This is our new reality, that everything is being done online. And as such, most of our programs up until this global pandemic is over will be online. So thank you to everyone who's been watching. Thanks to Student Affairs, who's together with the SRC, who organized this program, and our guest speakers who also availed themselves and actually been part of this program. Thank you. I think our program is adjourned, and as such, we can leave.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Program Director, and goodbye to all the participants.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Program Director. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister.
Thank you, SG.
Yes, sir.
Yoda.